At the Bangor post office, I bought one sheet of stationery, one envelope, and one stamp, and then stood at the counter for a long time trying to write a letter to Haley. Dear Haley, wow. I don't know what to say to you. I guess I'm sorry would be a good place to start. I'm sorry I wasn't honest with you from day one, but I hope you understand once you hear my whole story. When I first met you, I didn't know who I was. I mean, seriously. I had amnesia, couldn't remember my name, or where I lived, or anything. It wasn't until after I met Thomas, the guy I told you was my uncle, that I finally figured out who I was and why I was such a mess. My name really is Danny, and I live near Chicago. I ran away from home and lost my memory for a bunch of reasons, but the biggest one is that I was in a car accident where my little sister got hurt really bad. I was the driver. Sure, Thomas keeps telling me it was an accident, but it was still my fault and it tears me apart every minute. Anyway, not looking for sympathy here, just trying to explain, so maybe you can understand me better. I met you, and to be honest, for a while I didn't even care who I was. I could almost stop thinking about it all. You made me feel happy, and the music we shared was amazing. Thank you so much for that. Haley, I still need to figure some stuff out, but once I do, I'll contact you. I can't stop thinking about you, and I want to see you again. Maybe you're really mad at me and don't want to see me at all, but I hope you'll give me a second chance. Don't know what to say other than I really miss you and I'm sorry. I stopped and considered how I should close the letter. Your friend, sincerely, take care, see ya. But then I decided just to write exactly what I felt. Love, Hank. Danny. From Bangor, I walked or thumbed rides the rest of the way here. The deeper into Maine I traveled, the more natural everything looked. It was honest-to-God wilderness, or as Thoreau called it, the wild. Found my way to Baxter State Park early last night and set up camp. The only drawback is the bugs, but I bet there's not even one black fly up at the summit of Mount Katahdin. The moose lifts its big head and peers into the woods, weeds dripping water from his mouth. Voices approach our hiding place. The moose gives me one last glance, then sloshes out of the pond and gallops into the woods, crunching through the last underbrush. He disappears within a few seconds. I can't believe we're just turning around and going home, says a girl's voice, just like that, giving up. Babe, it's way too windy. No need to take chance. A guy answers. Look, the mountain will still be there another day. The two of them come into view, a couple probably in their early 20s, wearing hiking boots and a day pack. They kneel down near the edge of the water. The guy dips his hand into the pond and splashes cool water on the back of his neck. I wonder what to do. Should I clear my throat to let them know I'm here? Maybe say hello? In truth, I don't feel like talking to anyone. So I just stand here behind the tree, feeling like a creepy stalker, watching the girl scoop water onto her face and glare at her boyfriend, just wanting them to leave. It wasn't that bad, the girl murmurs. We could have made it. The guy pulls his sweaty Red Sox t-shirt, takes a deep breath, and starts back down the hill, with her close behind. Their voices grow fainter, then disappear into the woods. Glancing up at the sky and through the spruce branches, everything looks clear and blue to me. No doubt things are windier farther up the mountain, but it's going to take some serious weather to discourage me. I'm not sure what I hope to achieve, but reaching the top of the mountain, only that I have to get there. Pulling my backpack up onto my shoulders, I continue hiking uphill. Destination Baxter Peak, the summit of Mount Katahdin, at 5,226 feet above sea level. I can't take the exact route Henry traveled because he did a lot of canoeing portaging once he got to the wild, and I don't have a canoe. But that doesn't matter. What's important is that I'm here, seeing the same landscape he saw, pretty much the way it looked back in the mid-1800s. Just like Henry, I have the same destination, the mountain summit. Except Henry never quite made it. He climbed to South Peak, the second highest peak, and even though that's way impressive. Let's face it, it's still not the top. My goal is to get there for both of us. Hiking up the side of the mountain, I get a good rhythm going, breathing hard but making good progress. The incline is sharp, a wooded path through trees and bushes and over random rock formations. So far, so good. Conditions are still great as far as I can tell. Not a lot of clouds. That's important when you're climbing up to where the clouds live. Focused on steady walking and breathing, my brain clears and I'm able to relax and think when I settle into the cadence of a good run. And as soon as I do, my thoughts fall into the last black hole of time I couldn't recover until now. Listening to my pace of my own feet crunching on rocks while climbing the mountain, I'm able in a semi-detached way to examine the missing moments and days right after the incident. When my forehead smashed into the window shield, I got a concussion. Brain sloshing against my skull knocked me out, but not for long. Not long enough. I was aware that people were rushing to the car window, saying hang in there, that the ambulance was coming, that it was going to be okay. But it wasn't. At first, Rosie wailed and whimpered like a baby animal caught in a trap, but then she went silent with her blue eyes wide and empty, and that was worse. My head hurt so bad and everything was blurry, and I couldn't get to her, couldn't help her get free. Somebody outside the passenger window gasped and said, "Her leg. My God, her leg." And I had to look, but after one quick glance at the place where her leg was supposed to be, I couldn't grasp the sight of the blood and bone. My brain locked into wondering, what happened to that other pink sneaker? Where did it go? As soon as I get out of the car, I have to find it. The ambulance arrived and I can still see the lights flashing, hear my sister screaming while they tried to free her from the wreck. I kept telling them I had to go out there in the road and find the sneaker, but they kept telling me to hush, that I was going to be okay. They didn't understand. The trip to the hospital was a blur, and for the next couple of days, I guess I swam in and out of consciousness while my brain did its best to recover. Flashes of memory, bandage on my head, IV drip in my arm, my parents coming to see me, Mom crying. It runs together, those days in the hospital, sleeping for hours and eating meals brought on a tray, watching TV shows with my eyes glazed over, barely registering what I saw. Then, about the third day after the accident, Mom came to see me and the doctor came in. He told us I could go home. As soon as the gauzy haze in my head started to lift, it was too clear what happened to Rosie. Her leg was so badly mangled in the wreckage, they couldn't save it. One-legged, broken ballerina. Even after I was better, I stayed in my bed all day, every day, refusing to go to school, pretending my head was still hurt more than it actually did. Couldn't face the idea of what happened to my baby sister, what I did to her. Finally, I couldn't stand living inside my own body, couldn't deal with the guilt. I knew I either had to run away or I would end up hanging myself in the garage. It was that simple. So I threw some stuff in a gym bag, emptied my savings account, and got ready to run to New York City, the biggest, baddest place I could think of. I was prepared to vanish into the crowds and somehow cease to exist, disappear off the grid. Before I left, I stopped at the hospital to see Rosie. She was out of ICU now, in a private room. Slowly, like I was walking into a cathedral or something, I stepped into her room and stood by her bed. She looked so little in that hospital bed, with one leg and foot molded by the sheets. The other was flat from the thigh down. Nothing there. "Rosie?" I whispered. Her eyes fluttered open. She looked at me, my blonde sister, with pink cheeks and blue eyes like a little china doll. She smiled. I couldn't believe it. She actually smiled at me. "Danny," she said. Her voice was all sleepy and dreamy. I'm sure they'd given her a ton of drugs, so she wasn't fully aware of her situation, or whose fault it was. "I'm so sorry, Rosie," I said, and in the moment, I wanted so badly for her to say something typical Rosie-ish, like, "Hey, Danny, bet you didn't know that magnolia is both the state flower and the state tree of Mississippi, did you?" But she was asleep. I left the hospital with my gym bag slung over my shoulder and caught the train to downtown Naperville. That took me to Chicago. From Chicago all the way to New York City. My head was pounding the whole way on the train. Not fully recovered from the accident, the concussion, the shock of everything. I slept most of the way, sometimes not even remembering where I was or why I was there. It was dark when I got off the train in New York, and sometime within the first few hours of my arrival, I got mugged. All I remember is tripping in a mud puddle as some guy on the street hit me, stole my gym bag, and all my money except the $10 bill stuffed in my front pocket. The blow plus the concussion added to the trauma of the accident. It all worked together to shut off access to my past. It was self-preservation, guarded by a snarling beast that turned out to be a blessing in disguise, for a while anyway. After about an hour, the path becomes steeper, and it's harder to catch my breath. My thigh muscles burn, and the backpack stuffed with my gear feels heavier with every step. Sitting on a rock, I pull sweaty arms out of the pack and stretch my muscles. The wind is picking up, so I pull out a windbreaker and slide it over my head. There's no way I was going to make it, but I was going to be able to carry the pack to the summit. So I pulled out a few things and stuffed them into my pockets. Water bottle, trail mix, flashlight, my book. Then I found a nook under the ledge of granite and stuffed the pack into it, camouflaging it with leaves and pine branches. To make sure I remember where I left it, I tied a white sock on a branch near the path. It's around noon when the park ranger heading downhill meets me on the trail. I register the gray beige shirt and brown shorts, straw-colored hair. The wind is getting fierce up there, he tells me. We haven't closed down the summit yet, but we probably will. You might want to turn around and do this another day. He's a nondescript-looking guy. Hair the color of his shirt, eyes the color of his shorts. It all blends together into a gray-brown blur. Thanks, I say, for letting me know. The ranger considers this, taking in the fact that I'm still standing there and have not made a move to retreat. But there's not much that he can do. Just respect the mountain, he says. I will, I tell him. I do. He nods at me and continues down the mountain. His job is done. The burden of risk is on me. And that's exactly how I want it. As I climb higher, the wind moans like a live thing in the pine and oak trees, throwing my hair in my eyes. The landscape changes from trees, bushes, and other leafy plants to thin tufts of grass and carpets of moss. The only trees now are small and stumpy, holding on to the windswept ground for dear life. Every few feet, I stop to take in the view, feeling like I'm climbing up into the air. Far below, trees, lakes, and streams spread out below me like a topographical map from geography class. But the higher I climb, the more the world I know falls away from me, along with the security of trees and foliage. It's like I'm on some strange alien planet.